up, let it roll. Stars and stripes in my soul. Steel toes on, boots in the gravel. Heartland truth on every channel. Open Bible, flag on the wall. We say what we believe when we don't talk at all. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. We back the badge, we guard the border. We love our guns and law and order. They try to shame every word we say, but we don't bow down, we just press play. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the bell. Hey, we won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. You can cancel the show, but not the crowd. We're still here, still talking loud. Gander the free on every spell. Hit that mic, host, let the truth ring out. This is red, white, and raised hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to rail from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raised hell.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining us for today's episode. It's a big one. Wow. When the bombs start dropping, it can be devastating. The destruction is everywhere. And I'm talking about the bomb shells exploding all over the Democrat Party, and two of their biggest heroes, two of their most staunch anti-Trumpers over the course of the last 6 years. Although the crimes go back to before 6 years. And I'm talking about Joe Biden, former president of the United States, and one of the most corrupt presidents in American history, and Dr. Anthony Fauci, who may go down when all is said and done, and when all is learned, and when all of the evidence has been brought to light. Dr. Anthony Fauci may very well have been one of the most evil human beings of our lifetimes. I don't think that is an overstatement. Neither does Rand Paul. Neither do a lot of the other individuals who are watching and commenting and learning so much more now about what Dr. Anthony Fauci knew, what he believed, versus what he told America when he lied about the origin of the COVID pandemic, where it started, and what his intentions were. His diary has been discovered. Rand Paul is publishing and pushing all of it. It's quite extraordinary. If you did not see the opening graphic for today, I put together as I was preparing last night. Deceitful, dishonest, disgusting Democrats. It's just what they are. And now it's weird that both of these things kind of hit in one day. The massive expose done on Joe Biden's crimes with respect to leaking or intentionally giving classified information to a ghostwriter to write his little book about his son, and the fact that Robert Hur, special investigator, knew all of it and refused to charge him because he's a doddering old man who just had a poor memory. Now the truth is coming out, and we're going to dive into that. And then on the other side, of course, is Fauci and his private diaries exposed. Both of these things, bombshells dropping yesterday. That's really quite something to behold. We're going to cover as much of it today as we can. I'm going to give you as much audio as I can. I'm going to read a little bit of the stuff to you. It is quite extensive. Those two big giant stories today. I know there are other big stories going on right now. We still don't know what's going on in Iran. I wish I had confidence that we knew what was going on with Iran. I don't. I'm very, very disappointed with the way this whole thing is carrying out. I'm not going to give you more information until we have more information. I just know that the strait is still, for all intents and purposes, is closed. We have stopped bombing, and now we're begging to go back to the table again and get a deal. We got leaders all over the country saying, please, Mr. President, finish the job. Don't give them the breathing room to say, okay, now we'll come and deal, and we'll go through the same rinse and repeat cycle again and again and again. So I'm not going to talk about it until I've got more to report on, and we've got more to analyze and break down. I'm not going to speak to it. It's just very, very disappointing and frustrating right now that we are now 98 days away from the midterms with no discernible outcome in mind and no apparent end game in place, other than, okay, they can't have a nuke, which we 1,000% agree with. So we're gonna skip past that. I do want to get to a few small stories or smaller stories compared to the gravity of why isn't Joe Biden facing charges for his releasing of classified documents when he was not authorized to do so in 2016 and in 2017. He was vice president of the United States prior to that. In 2016 was the election, of course. He did not have the authority to declassify documents. Only the president did. And he did not do that. He also had documents retained in his possession in a variety of locations from the time when he was a senator, before he even became vice president. Again, no authorization for him to have or possess those documents, much less make them available to a ghostwriter for the purposes of writing a book. So Joe Biden, the depth of crimes that he committed, that he has been allowed to skate on, is extraordinary. And maybe that's why, because he knew that he was getting away with a myriad of crimes. Maybe that's why he agreed to go ahead and pardon Dr. Anthony Fauci before he left office in January of 2025. Maybe. Either that, or he had no idea that Dr. Anthony Fauci was getting the pardon, that the autopen did it and staffers did it for him. But Anthony Fauci, of course, is never going to face full charges for all of his crimes because of that blanket pardon granted. Why he pushed Fauci, that is, and begged for pardons from Joe Biden before Biden left office is now kind of coming into focus, because we are learning how much he lied about. We're learning how much he organized the cover-up, and in fact, the planned release of, or I want to be more precise than Anthony Fauci. I don't want to be intentionally misleading the way Anthony Fauci did. The evidence is revealing that the clear start, the origin of the COVID pandemic, came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. It was the Wuhan lab, not the wet market that Anthony Fauci tried to tell the rest of the world, and including and especially the United States. Not the wet market, but the lab. The question is whether that was an accidental, clumsy leak from that lab where they were practicing and studying gain of function research, the ability for a virus to pass from species to species and so forth, and what it does when it moves from one to another. All of that studying was going on there. Were they clumsy and it just leaked, or was it an intentional leak so that they could indeed study a worldwide pandemic and see exactly what the response would be? And obviously the response was what was already cooking in different labs, which was the shot. I call them the poison darts that they tried to throw into everybody. Fact of the matter is, all of those things are in play right now. And Dr. Anthony Fauci knew they would be in play. And that's why he begged Joe Biden for a pardon before he left office. And whether Biden actually gave it, or again, it was auto-penned for him, is anybody's guess. I think the pen signed it, but whether Biden gave a verbal or a nod that said, yeah, let's do that, somebody go ahead and run the auto pen and sign one for Dr. Fauci, like he did for his entire family, including his son, Hunter. So it's really, really, anyway, those are the two giant stories, two big Democrat bombshells and exposés done basically on the same day, and we're going to cover them. But there are a few things that I wanted to hit. This one that I want to start with and I want to share with you, I'm sharing with you because it's nothing to do with Eric Trump, even though the headline you're going to see here is Eric Trump calls for 16-year-old boy lifeguard, 16-year-old lifeguard who rescued boy from violent California waves to be given highest civilian honor. That is a large statement there by the son of President Trump. But that's not the story here. The story is the video. It's one of the most intense things you're ever going to see. I watched it and I thought 30 seconds in, I was like, wow, that's a hero. That's a 16-year-old kid. What were you doing at 16? I can't remember I guess I have some memory of what I was doing at 16. I wouldn't have been doing that. I couldn't have been doing that. You talk about heroism. A 16-year-old lifeguard is being hailed as a hero after he rescued a 10-year-old boy from monster waves in Santa Cruz, California. Heart-pounding video of the dramatic rescue shows the teenage lifeguard calmly deploying his training techniques to rescue a young boy who was caught in violent waves. The only reason I'm telling you the story is because of the violent waves. There's a reason I'm a land lover, man. I'll tell you what. I mean, I don't mind pools, but I'll tell you what, I'm not a fan. I'm just not a fan of the complete opposite element of where we belong. We were born on land for a reason. We go out of our element and into the sea with all of the creatures there, and then all of the natural fury of riptides and so on and so forth. Man, I'm just not about it. But this is evidence of why. But Eric Trump, son of the president, once you'll see this, you'll probably see why Eric Trump made this statement. Quote, "Give this 16-year-old lifeguard the highest civilian honor. This is truly the best of America. Well done," said Eric Trump. And so I just figured I'm going to show this to you. I watched, it's 2 minutes long, and you'll feel like, oh my gosh, it's an eternity, because it just, well, I'm not going to comment on it anymore. I'm just going to let you watch it because it's really quite extraordinary.
Did you ask for help? Oh, you're gonna train.
I made up my mind that I wasn't going to overtalk that and take away from the drama of the moment. Obviously, you knew the outcome ahead of time because I wouldn't be showing it to you if the young man had not made it. But now that it's over, I mean, holy goodness. Every time it looked like the 16-year-old had him in the clear, okay, and you just think, it's shore now, it's shore, it's beach, he's okay. Here came another massive wave just overwhelming them and pulling them back out again. And then it was back to it again. And that 16-year-old lifeguard, 16 years old, had just a death grip on that young man, the 10-year, the anti-death grip, I guess, because if he loses that grip, that 10-year-old is gone. Just wow. What an extraordinary thing. I agree with Eric Trump. I mean, some might say, well, that's the job of a lifeguard, is to be heroic and save lives. That is what a lifeguard does. And you know what? Maybe you were a lifeguard at 16. We all swam in public pools, and they were usually our peers or maybe a little bit older than us, who were, the lifeguards. It was a decent paying summer job in between school years, that kind of a thing. But I'll tell you what, we didn't live on the ocean. The lifeguards who take those jobs, I mean, unbelievable. I was looking it up a little bit here. Let me shrink this back, or actually, I don't have to shrink it back down. I'm just going to mute it a little bit and let it play a little bit so you can kind of watch it again as I describe what some of the commentary in the story had to say about it. I might have to shrink this down a little bit so I can go back to it. Yeah. Well, now I can't read it if I do that, because I'm going to have to move it off the screen. All right, let's just watch it again. But it's like every time, like I said, you think he's in the clear. And now he gets in the distant. Thanks. Look at that hero. And look, we got him. We got him. We got him. He's this guy. You think? Have some of that. He got separated from a guy from some more. Got it. We're good. Oh, he said no. Really? You think? Oh my Lord.
Did you ask for help?
Can't tell if the girl in the background in the audio there is laughing or shrieking. I hope shrieking. All I know is that is one of the most extraordinary.
Looking at train.
Even now, this is coming back for one more fight. Make it harder. I guess that's what they mean when, they talk about the fury of Mother Nature. Just the power of the ocean, the power of the sea. Santa Cruz lifeguards are required to complete a training program. Candidates must complete a minimum of 56-hour lifeguard training plus 24-hour medical certification training, if not currently certified in Title 22 First Aid and CPR for the professional rescue or hire, the city of Santa Cruz says. Much of the California coast is under a National Weather Service beach hazards warning due to strong rip currents and large swells. Hurricane Genevieve, a Category 3 storm currently churning in the eastern Pacific, is causing coastal flooding and large swells, and away we go. So I don't know. I was blown away by that. I wanted to share it in case you had not seen it yourself. Talking about just that video. It was extraordinary, and it does show. I think Eric Trump is correct. It shows the best of America. This is what, I don't know, and that's not a jingoistic, patriotic thing or whatever. I mean, maybe it sounds like it is. I would imagine there are great lifeguards in other countries as well, but the willingness to put his own life on the line to go out there and save a 10-year-old boy, and then to get swamped again and again and again by the huge swells. Young man never gave up, never let go of that 10-year-old, never, ever even thought about it. I mean, he could have gotten separated away. You saw when the black gentleman who went out to assist, now we got two of them trying to haul this kid in, and then here comes massive swells. And by the time the water subsides a little bit, you see he got separated. he got separated. He was, 10, 15 feet away or whatever it was. Then he came back to try it again. But the lifeguard, the 16-year-old, never got separated, never let go. Just an extraordinary thing. And what's the highest civilian honor, right? That would be the Presidential Medal of Freedom, I think, right? Presidential Medal of Freedom, I think, is the highest civilian honor. That would be something to do here, or at least to consider, because that was an extraordinary thing, an inspirational thing. But the power of the sea, like I said, is it's a hard thing to quantify. When you realize that 70% of the earth is covered by that stuff, covered by the sea, by water, and wind storms, and my what was your favorite, and by favorite I mean wow, kind of disaster / apocalyptic movie, end of the world type stuff, right? Because you remember, like, Independence Day was, with Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum, that was an alien invasion that was going to wipe out the world. There are a lot like that, where alien species, War of the Worlds, that was, the H.G. Wells classic, and the Tom Cruise movie, I think around 2005, somewhere in that neighborhood, the War of the Worlds, that was another really good one. What was the one with the asteroid? Bruce Willis and why am I blanking on his name? Ben Affleck. Not Independence Day. What was that one called? Anybody have it? It's killing me here. I can't remember the name of the movie, but I've seen it 100 times probably, because anytime it comes on, I really love disaster and, apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic movies. I don't know why. Can anybody in the chat help me out here? What's the name of that movie? Nobody seems to know the Bruce Willis movie. I'm going to have to look it up myself. Y'all are killing me here. Armageddon. Thank you. B. Morgan finally came through, and Charlie G finally came through. Armageddon. That's the one. Jeez. Harry Stamper. Yeah, that was Bruce Willis's character in Armageddon. Anyway, that was the asteroid one that was going to basically boom and darken the sun and blah, 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 and wipe out all of the entire globe. Those movies, I watch them. I like them. It's whatever. It's a niche. It's something that I'm, that I find fascinating. And I guess maybe I'm kind of enthralled with because of the horror involved, whatever. So the other one is the one that was called Deep Impact. And that's where I'm going with this. Deep Impact was like 1998, maybe, somewhere in that neighborhood. 98, 99, something like that. And that one had Téa Leoni, who I think disappeared after that movie. Robert Duvall was a big part of that movie. Morgan Freeman was the president. That was the one. And I don't know if I can do this. Can I show the scene that I'm talking about just for fun, just for giggles? Let me see if I can pull it up, and as long as I play it without the audio, the volume or something, because I think maybe I can get away with that. But the Deep Impact one, it was different because the asteroid, or in this case, it was a comet. Here we go. In this case, it was a comet. It struck the ocean. It struck off the eastern seaboard. And so it created basically, a mile high tidal wave that just swamps and envelops New York City and the Twin Towers and everything else. And it just, again, shows the immense power of water. I don't know any other way to say that, really. I know it sounds a little goofy, but the sea, when you see things like this, it just blows me away. It's one of the reasons why, like I said, I was watching. Let me see if I can share this. Let me mute it. And let's see if we can share it with you. Okay, let's see what happens here. All right. It's what I thought of when I saw the video of the young lifeguard there. It's just, like I said, fighting against water. And of course, there are movies made of the real natural disasters, the real, what year was the massive tsunami that struck, gosh, I'm blanking on things now. Not Singapore. I'll come back to it. But anyway, this is why, the power of nature and the power of water, like I said, just kind of grabs me. And this is why this is one of my most terrifying when you see it, also, but just awe-inspiring spectacles in movies. This is the comet that is supposed to destroy the world. You can see this here. Don't even get me started on the characters, because those two young characters were annoying as all get out. The primary characters there. Acting wasn't fantastic except for Morgan Freeman and Duvall, probably about the only two. The rest of it was really, really poorly acted. Taya Leone, I thought, was terrible. About I'm giving you movie reviews of a 1998 movie just because of this that video. What can I say? But yeah, there we go. So the acting was terrible, but the special effects were phenomenal, especially for 1998. I can imagine what it would be like now here 30 years later ish. And we've probably all seen this a million times too, but what the heck? We got a couple of minutes here. We're going to see it again. Yeah, again, the acting I just thought was really, really bad. In fact, Taya Leone was so not credible at all. And neither were the two kids. But just look at that. That's the kind of thing that when in 1998, when I first saw this on the big screen, I probably had a nightmare over that. Maybe you did too. Bye-bye to the statue, and then away we go. It's just Hollywood at its finest. Just talk about blockbusters. And it was a little bit before Hollywood went as crazy woke as it did. Obviously Trump wasn't anywhere near the horizon at that particular point in time, so we could enjoy Hollywood a little bit more. But look at that. This is, as the waters just rush. Yeah, we're not going to make it, so why bother running? Let's just chill. And there's the dork who, in the story, discovered the comet with his science club or whatever it was. Poorly acted, terribly acted. But here come the effects, and that's what I mean, just the immense power. That if something ever did disrupt, comet, meteor, asteroid, lunar, I don't even know what it would be. That's just pretty cool imagery right there. Look at that. The entire city just under that. And there's the towers. That's it. Like I said, it's just one of those things, not that what happened in this story that we were just doing was anywhere like that, but it's just the immense power of water and fighting back against it. It was, I don't know. There we go. Just something I hope you appreciate. And I agree with Eric Trump. Eric Trump just nailed it. He was among many people responding to it, saying, give this guy the Presidential Medal of Freedom. This kid, this 16-year-old kid's going to probably be a sophomore in high school and doing hero work like that. That was just a really extraordinary thing to see. Okay, now that's negative stuff. Real quick. Sherry says, I'm accused of being a disasters and tragedies queen. I always watch them. That's a really fun way to say that too. And maybe that's without the queen part, maybe that's kind of where I am too on these things. Hold on, let me just pop a couple of the comments up real quick. What does Jimbo say? You know that the noise that thing would be making is it cooked across the sky? Oh yeah. Well, they did that in the, obviously I just played it without the audio because I don't know what it's going to lead to. Whenever YouTube hits me wants to hit me with a strike, they'll find a reason. But I feel like anytime there's like a musical score playing to a scene that I might show for the purposes of discussion, I'll get a notification after the show. It'll say, your video cannot be shared or whatever. You have earned a strike or whatever because of copyright music. It's like, I was a scene from a show or a movie or whatever. And so I got hit. So I figure if I don't play the music or the audio, maybe, I don't know, maybe I get away with it. But in the actual movie, yeah, they as it cooked across the skies, you just said, it was deep and loud. And in the theater, it's, kind of blows your hair back kind of a thing. So I get it. What do we have here? All right. That's a little bit off topic. I just want to see if anybody else wants to hit anything on this. Remember, they wanted you to think global warming would lead to this type of Hollywood weird disaster. That's very true. They still want you to think that, for crying out loud. Absolutely, they do. Thailand, thank you. Thank you, Thailand. Charlie G jumped in first, I think, to say Thailand was the 2005 massive tsunami that took, I don't even know how many lives and did how much damage. Oh, wow. People are, oh, you guys are into it. That's cool. So hold on. Let's just ride this for a moment here before I get into the real heavy stuff about the Biden and Fauci chronicles and a couple of other things as well, but just on the disaster movie kick. Yeah, I think B. Morgan was the first one in to say Harry Stamper and Armageddon, Charlie G, Sherry, SRL had it. I don't watch those kinds of movies since Liberty Bell. Never liked them. Wow. See, I'm fascinated by them. And not just like the natural disaster ones too, but like the disease epidemic ones, like World War Z, like the zombie thing. That's and the other Will Smith one. My wife hates it because a dog dies in it. Legend. I Am Legend. I Am Legend. That's another one. I mean, I'm all about those movies. They just, I don't know. Like I said, they play on your worst fears, I suppose. And that's what makes them really, really, you gravitate toward them. Strangling Fauci while making him wear a mask would be fitting. We'll come back to that in a bit. The Day After. That was another one. The Day After was another one. Thank you, Tim. That was a pretty good one. Poor title choice because it wasn't about Armageddon. All right. Come on, Charlie. Let's not pick nits here. I'm accused of, that's what Sherry said. I'm with you. We lived through 2 Cat 4 hurricanes in Florida, part of why we came back to Ohio. And I will tell you something else. 100%. That's why I live landlocked. I will not live in one of those coastal states. I just won't do it. And if we ever leave Ohio and move to Tennessee and be near our daughter and, retire down to a little bit of a warmer climate, it's going to be a landlocked state like Tennessee. I'm not going to South Carolina or North Carolina. I'm not going to Louisiana. I'm not going to Texas unless I'm in the middle of Texas, not anywhere near the Gulf Coast, the Gulf of America coast, or Florida. Not doing it. Because you're right. I mean, what do you do? Hurricanes. All right, we got to board up everything again because here comes another potential end of our lives and everything that we own. I mean, it's just crazy. Good on the people who live there, but I'm not going to be one of them. I'm always want to be landlocked. The power of the sea is terrifying. I mean, in all seriousness. Outbreak. Oh, there you go. That was another good one. That was, wasn't that Dustin Hoffman? I think that was Dustin Hoffman. Outbreak. Yeah, that was an older one too. I'd love a weekend of disasters and tragedies flicks. 2012. Oh yeah, I remember that one too. Was 2012 the global warming one? Global warming was going to made the whole world freeze over. Just everything just turned to ice in a moment. That's a good one. I mean, for the point. I mean, forget about the politics of it all. But anyway, all right. Thanks for humoring me with that. We'll get back to the business at hand now because we do have a few other stories to discuss. And we will discuss those stories after I remind you about Americans for Prosperity, Ohio. AFP Ohio is putting in work. They have knocked over 300,000 doors, over 300,000 just in the past few months alone in support of candidates for office in the state of Ohio, talking about conservative Republican candidates like John Husted for Senate, Vivek Ramaswamy for governor, obviously. And they need help because we're 98 days away from the election now. And what we have to do is absolutely come up with a way to inspire and motivate people to go out and vote when they don't have Trump at the top of the ticket. President Trump drew massive, massive numbers of people to the polls to vote for him in both, or not both, all three, 16, 20, and 24. And Republicans benefited from that greatly as people voted down ballot. But he's not there now. His agenda is, but he's not, and that may not be enough to draw a lot of people, out to the polls. So there are a lot of people who are not motivated just yet anyway. So that's what this is about. AFP Ohio is training citizen advocates on how to knock on doors. And you're not going to be knocking on, a Kamala Harris voter's door, from back in 2024. They're going to put you in places where you're going to be talking to either people who have voted Republican in the past, who are registered Republicans. This is about rallying the base, not about converting the unconverted. All right. Help. if you can, go to afpaction.com, afpaction.com. AFP Ohio is doing extraordinary work, and we want to be a part of that. So please, if you can volunteer, consider volunteering with AFP at afpaction.com. All right. This is one other story before I get to the headline story. And the headline story are these deceitful, dishonest, disgusting Democrats and their exposés, the exposés being done on their myriad crimes. This is a crime too. This is a different type of crime. I posted this on Facebook. I did not put this in the newsletter on Sunday. So I don't think you have been made aware of this one, at least yet, not by me. You have not yet been made aware of this one. What happened to my screen here? Hold on a second. We'll have to put this back. So the University of Minnesota, there it is. The University of Minnesota, Tim Walz, Tampon Tim to be precise. Remember, Tim Walz is the guy, we call him Tampon Tim, not just to be crude, but because he's the guy who put tampons in boys' restrooms in elementary and junior high schools and high schools all across the state of Minnesota. Because he's sick, because he's a lunatic, because he's a leftist. Well, now Tim Walz, as you can see by Representative Nancy Mace's tweet here, Governor Tim Walz is using your tax dollars to put transgender dolls with swappable genitalia in classrooms for children as young as 4. Not a joke. Happening in Minnesota this fall. In other words, next month, when kids return to school in August. The dolls come with removable, interchangeable body parts to help children realize the different options that exist for who they can be, regardless of their body parts. 4-year-olds, your tax dollars, every parent should be furious. We are. Children should be learning to read, write, and add, not be introduced to gender ideology before they lose their first tooth. This is not normal. They're coming for your children. We must protect them at all costs. There he is. That's the governor who was one election away from being a heartbeat away from the presidency. This is the man that the Democrats chose to be vice president to Kamala Harris. Those creepy looking things are not aliens. Those are replications of the dolls that Minnesota is using to teach kids starting this August, this school year, that their body parts are not permanent. They can change them if they want. And this New York Post headline and graphic will show it even better. Let me make sure you're still seeing what I'm seeing here. Yeah, okay. Taxpayer-funded trans dolls with removable genitalia to hit classrooms this fall for kids as young as 4 to learn about quote-unquote different options. Oh, okay, that one didn't have the image. The actual New York Post graphic does. So I'm going to go to the New York Post here and the story. Taxpayer-funded trans dolls with removable genitalia to hit classrooms this fall for kids as young as 4 to learn about different options. And here is the graphic. There we go. Now, I don't know what they blocked out here in the center one. Can you see that? In the center one, they have like one of those pixelated squares over part of what the genitalia would be. I'm assuming that it's a male member on what looks to be a female person. Also with female reproductive organs shown from the outside, but on the inside, it's hard to say for sure. But these are the paper dolls they're giving to kids, or they're about to give to kids, with gender-neutral names like Sam, which I guess can be Sam and Samantha, Rory, Avery, and Parker. They have removable internal and external genitals. Removable, because it's just that simple, you see, to go and remove your genitals. And you know, when you teach kids that you can take the genitals that you have on one doll off and put it on the other, later you can switch it back. As if to suggest to the kids that it's just that simple in life. Yeah, you can chop them off, but don't worry. You know, it's interchangeable. You can put them back later. I know that sounds absurd, and that's because it is absurd. I want to see if I can find the link here to the rest of the dolls. There was a quick hyperlink that was made available, but I don't know if I can find it now. The goal is for kids to learn about the different options that exist for who they can be, according to a therapist at the University of Minnesota Medical School. By the way, a school that should never, ever be allowed to grant a license to a medical provider again, which spent over a half decade developing the controversial project funded by lefty Minnesota Tim Walz, the Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. The Medical School's Institute for Sexual and Gender Health. Hell are they talking about? There's nothing healthy about what they're discussing. Research over these 6 years included paying $20 to $60 for trans and gender diverse children and their parents to play with the dolls and talk about gender and bodies in groups. So they paid kids and their parents money to play with those dolls and talk about, in other words, to start grooming and brainwashing and manipulating kids as early as they can. Oh, maybe these are the other 7. This might be, let's see. I want to see the other. It looks like that's, maybe down here. Oh, there we go. Okay, here's more images. A blonde doll named Sam. I don't know if I can enlarge that anymore. I don't think I can. A blonde doll named Sam can be seen in some phase of sexual transition, with Professor Diane Berg, co-founder of My Gender Dolls, proudly standing behind the table. Why there are not handcuffs on that beast standing behind those images, I don't know. That person should be in prison right now. Or at the bare minimum, bring back the mental asylums, the insane asylums, and put her in one of those, because clearly not only is she evil, she is also extraordinarily deranged in her brain. My Gender Dolls. The University of Minnesota's medical school has been conducting research for the past 6 years on these. Walz had a big smile when he received the Sex Institute's award in 2023. I don't know if I can enlarge this anymore. If I can, yeah, see, I guess I can, but I can't, then I won't have the ability unless I can do it by arrow. Oh, I can, okay. Nick Ryder is one of the co-founders of My Gender Dolls. Anybody want to guess? What gender is Nick Ryder? I see earrings. I see a female feminine style face, but I see a man's vest and tie. I guarantee you this is somebody who says, I'm neither male nor female. I'm non-binary. I can be anything on any given day. On the weekends, I might be male. On the weekdays, I might be female. And on some days, I may be neither. The dolls come with more than 100 pieces of clothing, hairstyles, and accessories. Oh, there, that makes it a little bit bigger, but it gets cut off somewhat there. So the dolls come with detachable internal and external genitalia. That's what I was thinking we were looking at here. A feature the researchers are especially proud of. They're proud of teaching a child at age 4 or 5 or 9 that you can just take your male genitalia and just remove it and replace it with ovaries and a uterus, because it's just as easy as swapping paper. Tell me again they're not coming after our kids, leftists. Tell me again, you're not grooming and brainwashing our children for the purposes of completely detaching them from reality, breaking up the nuclear family, detaching them from their mother and father, and trying to convince them to become part of a bizarre, and there's no way to describe it really, I mean, other than this social contagion, make them feel like they got to be something different to be special. That's what happens. It does become contagious where kids do this kind of thing in groups. Teach them in their classrooms. It's easy to switch. But you know what? You're a little too young to start switching just yet. But here, take these pills. These magic pills will get your body ready for you to do the switch, just like on the dollies. That's what they're doing. I guess that was the last one. You know, there was a point we figured maybe we had stopped all of this bullshit. As Pete Hegg said about the military, we're done with that ish. President Trump ended all of this trans nonsense in schools to the extent that an executive order can. And yet here we are in 2026, and they're about to roll this out this fall, next month in Minnesota. Prototypes of the dolls were shown in 2024, where one named Sam can be seen what appears to be some phase of gender transition with a detachable penis off to the side and a dress in girls' underwear within reach. The trans dolls, which promise to make gender fun. I thought they said this was traumatic. I thought they said that trans kids and trans people are suffering. And it's cruel to not let them be what they really feel is their own real gender and their own real identity. Isn't that what they said? But no, we're trading genders for fun. Literally. It's Tim Walz contracted with this company to create these dolls which promise to make gender fun. I thought it was supposed to be severe psychological condition that needed to be rectified with quote unquote gender affirming care, not making gender fun. It'll be made available to teachers, counselors, pediatricians, mental health providers, according to a website of My Gender Dolls. Features an image of a boy doll wearing a dress and other various states of sexual identity confusion. It's not known whether parents or children themselves will be able to order a doll or if they'll be only marketed to professionals in schools. It is not known if parents will be able to opt out of such therapeutic play for their kids. The fact that that's a question, just super quick, that they're talking about whether or not it has an opt-out provision. That's a problem. There should be no opt-out provisions whatsoever for parents when it comes to this gender mutilation education for kids. It should be automatically default. Every parent is opted out, but they're going to present it as something you can opt in for. We're thinking about having an after school or a recess period or whatever time when kids can come in and play with the gender dolls. Mom, Dad, if you're in, send us a permission slip and we'll let your kid do that. Instead, it's everybody does it, and you have to, maybe if they even allow an opt-out provision, you have to say, no, keep that crap away from my kids, you freaking mental mind-blanking butchers. No, you're not doing that to my kid. I'm taking more time on this than I wanted to because it's more infuriating as you go and as we talk about it out loud. I read this stuff and now I'm getting really mad. The school doesn't report how much it funnels to the Institute for Sexual and Gender Health, which is a total research budget of $1.4 million. Walz, who pushes pro-transgender policies on the Midwestern state, was bestowed the Institute's inaugural, quote, Distinguished Sexual and Gender Health Champion Award in 2023. In other words, the Tampon Award. The scandal-plagued governor was even pictured with a wide grin alongside medical school associate Nick Ryder, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Dude looks like a lady or lady looks like a dude, whichever one it is. They don't care. Everyone should be learning that there's diversity in gender identity, and what makes you real is not what your body parts are, but how you think and feel. She told, Diane Berg told the university's Discovery magazine, adding that she had already begun using the dolls with her own patients who were between 5 and 10 years old. Take away her license and lock her up. Period. Other therapists from the university's medical school said they use the dolls to get the kids talking about their private parts. Holy shit. That line. That's it. In what parallel universe did it become okay, and not just okay, but encouraged to have kids talking about their private parts? What part of the word private do you lunatics not understand? They're called private parts because they're private. You talk about them only with mom and dad and with your doctor, not with your teachers or other students. Why do you want to get kids talking about their private parts? You're telling me there's not an agenda here? But we're homophobes. If we call out the LGBTQ quote unquote community that went from tolerate us, just let us be us, to let us take your kids and force them to become us. Because the more us there are, the more political power we wield. So yeah, we're coming for your kids. But we're homophobes if we oppose that. We're transphobes if we oppose that. We were able to explore and brainstorm not just what our bodies are able to do now, but what we want our bodies to do and look like in the future. Automatically assuming that kids want their bodies to change and look like something different in the future. That's the assumption they begin with in this program. They will find anybody who's in trouble and use this as a tool to say, this is why you're unhappy. This is absolutely grooming, slam Dr. Quentin Van Meter, past president of the American College of Pediatricians. The younger kids, many of them still believe in the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy. And then you're presenting them with paper dolls that look kind of fun, and you can change clothing, hair, genitals. It's well beyond their ability to sort out fantasy from reality. Spot on. There's more of the images. When pressed on how much taxpayer money was spent on research and development of the dolls and of the salaries of the professors, the university refused to answer. Tim Walz did not return the New York Post's request for comment. I'm sorry, I'm just... We did our part to the extent that we could, right? We did our best to vote for President Trump, to vote for Republican majorities in Congress, to start quashing this horrific, I don't even know, we can't call it a movement, this intended grooming of our kids, this assault on all things normal and virtuous and true, families, moms, dads raising boys and girls, period. And if boys and girls have any sort of psychological distress for any reason, anxiety, depression, strange gender confusion or whatever, then you get them in front of doctors and they get treated for those things. When the mind and the body have a little bit of a disconnect, you don't start breaking out scalpels and cutting up the body. You heal the mind. We thought we were getting to a place like that with the most recent results of elections and so forth. And we kind of thought that this weird, 20 teens and early part of the 2020s, this period of time would go by. We would, we would look at, is that Cursinal? It's Cursinal. I got Cursinal? Cursinal, I got Cursinal? I got Cursinal today. I didn't think I had Cursinal today. Oh my goodness, I got Cursinal who just clicked into the camera, into the green room. I wasn't expecting Cursinal today. I'll tell you why in a second. Let me finish the thought. But what they're doing to our kid, now the thought is completely gone. I was going to finish my point on this, but I got Cursinal in the green room. Hold on. Let's find out what Cursinal's doing here this morning. Cursinal, What are you
Yes.
doing here?
It's Tuesday, 8 o'clock, right?
I know, but I got a message from you that said I'm going to be gone traveling and taking 2 weeks away. And so I said, hey, safe travels, no worries. And I'll be damned. There it is. I got the dates wrong. You said July,
Right.
July 31st. Today's only the 28th. You're still here. Between July 31st
Yeah, I'm still
and
here.
August 14th, you're traveling. I didn't even promote you, Kirsten, or else I would have put you on the graphic, for crying out loud, with AI, which you love, your AI renditions of Kirsten. Instead, all I had was Biden and Fauci on the graphic today. I didn't know you were coming, or I'd have baked a cake. What's going on, Pete?
Well, not a whole lot. I'm getting ready to actually retire from the practice of law. I've been threatening it for 5 years. And at the end of this week, it's going to be official. Finally, I've gotten everything squared away, got all my boxes packed up, the whole thing. And it doesn't look like there are going to be any emergencies. They're going to keep me around any longer. And then I'm going to go on a vacation. And my life is going to consist of writing novels, raising German Shepherds, fomenting chaos down in Washington at the Civil Rights Commission. That's about it. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
And my workouts, of course. I got to get back to the hill. I've been doing this mini hill, not the hill. There's another hill that's maybe a half to a third the size of my hill. And it's probably more appropriate for somebody my age. But as I was doing it Saturday, which I really liked it. I mean, actually, because you do it more rapidly because you go back up and down a lot more quickly. I pulled a thigh muscle. I haven't pulled a muscle since, I think, high school, maybe college.
Wow.
And so I'm incapacitated to some extent. Now, instead of running for the next week or so, I'm going to have to content myself with riding a stationary bike like all old men are supposed to do, and I can't stand it. And, it's just, and I can still lift, though. I can still do, my lifts.
Yeah, well, that's important. First of all, you're talking about running your hills and doing your lifts, and yeah, you're 73, but you did see what a 58-year-old man who's motivated enough by taunts from his 23-year-old 215-pound son can do, right? You saw this. Hold on a second. I think you saw this anyway, and I think I showed off on this. Showed this off on the show before too. Shortly after.
Oh yeah.
This was my son's 23rd birthday, and I decided to recreate the picture from when he was 3 on his 3rd birthday. There's that. All right. So I think everybody can see that. So, and I told my son we're doing it. And he said, Dad, you can't do that anymore. I said,
That's great.
Rep out with 210 pounds of J-Dog.
215, he corrected me after.
Yesterday, the big boy said, you can't do this anymore, Dad. He said, you can't get that. Gene said, you're going to throw out your bag. How about if I throw you?
Very good.
I started to lose my balance on the calf raises. He's so much height. He's nearly 6'4". The kid's nearly 6'4", and all of that vertical, it wasn't the weight, it was the verticality of it. It was like he was going to tip over, for crying out loud. So anyway, I'll see your hills and your sprint hills, and I'll raise you a J-Dog hoist.
Well, sometimes when I'm feeling pretty good, I put on my 30-pound weight vest to go up the hill, but I'm not carrying human beings up the hill.
Now that's work right there. You wear the weighted vest. That's man's work right there too. I give you plenty of credit for that.
Well, believe me, going up that hill is man's work. That's not for the faint of heart. One of my favorite activities, I think I mentioned to you before, I challenged that Euclid cop at one point.
Yeah.
But, one of my favorite activities is about every 3 or 4 times I go to the hill, there are some college guys getting ready for, usually around this time of year, especially, they're getting ready for football practice, or some high school guys. And so they see the old man come, so they think they're going to beat me. And I got news for them. Until this heart stops beating, which could be on that hill, it's most likely, every time I go to the hill, I tell my wife, I'm going to the hill. If I'm not back in 45 minutes, you know what to do. So celebrate probably on her. But yeah. It is. It's the best cardio. I don't recommend it to anybody. I do not, because it is truly intense. If you're not ready for it and you're over the age of, say, 30, you could have some serious problems.
Well, yeah, especially the knees, right? Because it's one thing to sprint and run and so forth, but when you're doing the hills, I mean, you're really putting a lot of pressure on the joints. Going up the hill like that. And so, at your age, it's amazing. I don't know if you've ever had any knee or hip problems, from your
No, I haven't. I've been
years.
very fortunate. I've broken ankles, played on a broken ankle in college football. Actually, didn't know it was broken. And our team physician, who was the head of whatever it's called, the National Collegiate Team Physicians Association. So, oh, no, I didn't see any fractures. Yeah, it was fractured. I played on a broken ankle and in intense pain. Bob, this is the truth. This is, and you'll probably not have me on the show anymore because it shows, that I've got an IQ below room temperature. Before practice, we used to have this huge jar filled with aspirin. And before practice, I would just stick a hand in there and just dunk a bunch of them, because that's what kind of pain I was in. And back then, they didn't have any back then in the Mesozoic era, they didn't have all kinds of mechanisms and, therapies that they currently have in the NFL. So
there was own shots.
Yeah, we had a trainer and all that kind of stuff, or a couple of trainers, and sometimes they'd do certain things, manipulate you, but it was hardcore.
I believe every bit of it. Now, to this nonsense about your retirement, as I said on Saturday in Medina at McFan, you're Ali. You're coming back. You can't walk away. You're going to have another comeback fight, and then another and another. Who are you kidding? Come on, Kirsten.
No, I'm retiring from the practice. 5 years ago, I told the firm I'm gone, and then I'm still here.
Like I said, you've been Aliing ever since.
Yeah, right. But I've got plenty of stuff to do in retirement. I'm still on the Civil Rights Commission for the next almost 6 years. So I'm going to be fomenting chaos and discord there for the next 6 years. I'm writing my novels, of course, and that's what I'm really looking forward to. And I'm going to be a little bit more involved in the public discourse. I'll be writing more, posting more for, on social media, on National Review, places like that. So I'll be pretty active, and it's going to be a lot of fun, though. One of the things I'm looking forward to is my time being my own. So I hope I still have more time left in my life to do that, but I think I do. But you never know. Life's not promised to you, so I want to take advantage of this.
100% agree, Peter. A couple of quick comments from the live chat. Sherry talking about your hill run and my squatting with my boy and so forth, and she's 100% correct. There it is. Boys will be boys no matter their ages. And they're damn right. We're going to challenge each other. We're going to challenge ourselves. Yep. We're going to do these things. That's just it's the nature of it. 100%. And by the way, we know that we are boys. We know that we are boys. And Pete, which is my way of launching into what I was just discussing before you came on. And I don't know if you got a chance to see it or not, but Pete, take a look at the screen. What do you see there, Peter?
I see an abomination. I see depravity on the part of the Democrats. I know what you're getting to, Bob. And this is, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Otherwise, I'm going to get in trouble.
Oh, you're here to not keep your mouth shut. You're here to keep your mouth open. I want to know.
But the Waltzes of the world, all of these people they're spending their time in government resources on trying to. What good does this do to anybody or for anybody? This is really, there was a time, I'm not advocating this, but there was a time when people like this, people look askance and wonder what the problem was with folks who try to promote this to kids. Astonishing to me. I'm sorry, I'm old school. And if anyone tried to do that with any of my kids, it'd be the last time they tried to do it. No threat. I'm just saying very politely.
My gender doll, and you're right, Pete. We would have looked at those people a few short years ago and called them perverts and probably pedophiles, child abusers, maybe even traffickers. We might have called them those things, and now they're just gender affirming and medical professionals. Pete, this is being done in the state of Minnesota with the permission of the governor, with the support of the governor. All kids starting at age 4 are going to have access in their schools to these quote unquote gender dolls, which are paper dolls with removable body parts. They just like you used to play with your Barbie doll or your Ken doll.
Yeah, just like Tim Walz has.
Yeah, right. But used to just change their clothes. Well, now it's not just their clothes. You can remove their genitalia. You can remove their internal and external sex organs. Look at these things. Look at these. You can just swap them out. You can put, put a wig on one of those, a girl's hair, a boy's hair. You can move the ovaries and the uterus. You can trade it out for the testicles and the penis, and you can just swap this around. Peter, did I mention they're starting at age 4? That's preschool with this stuff they're doing in the state of Minnesota.
Yep, Bob, I got to tell you, warning to anybody out there, any so-called quote-unquote educators, you try pulling that stunt with my grandkids, it's the last stunt you pull. That's not a threat, that's a promise.
I'm the same way, Pete, I agree, but what's a parent in Minnesota to do? Just because this is Minnesota, what's a parent? Hold on a second.
Do what Outlaw Josie Wales said, go plumb, mad dog, mean. You know, we need more people, and they've been effective. We've had some of our folks out there, you know, conservatives who have raised a stink about these things, and next thing you know, it wakes up the silent majority, and finally the perverts got to slink back into their hole. We have to fight back, Bob, and we can't continue to accept this kind of perversion and craziness, this nuttiness. This helps no one. It confuses almost everyone. And if you have any kind of religious belief, forget it. You may as well throw it out the door.
There's a podcaster who's extraordinarily popular among the lunatic fringe. Her name is Jennifer Welch. She is a disgusting human being. She is a vile, foul-mouthed, trashy, child-hating piece of vermin. But she has about 1.7 million followers. And recently, and I'm trying to see if I can find the video to share it with you. I'll just tell you while I hunt for this. She just did an episode in which she and her guest were talking about homeschooling. And you can obviously figure out why I'm bringing this up. Homeschooling is the alternative. It's the answer. When I said, what can a parent do in Minnesota? You said, get plumb, mag, dog, mean. And yeah, that's true, but there's a limit you can do with meanness too. You got to take action. And that includes getting them the hell out of those schools and perhaps start homeschooling them. So I'm going to read, since I can't find the video of her, I'm going to read a couple of the comments from her I've Had It podcast from just a couple of days ago. I don't have the exact date, but they were talking about homeschooling as being a, quote, crazy Christian problem, end quote, that is trickle-down stupidity, and, quote, MAGA on steroids. The proven value is the direct quote. The proven value of homeschooling should never be dismissed as, this is the response from the Department of Education. Should not be dismissed as trickle-down stupidity. The only thing that is stupid is your ignorance. But let me get back to what she said here. What I have absolutely had it with is watching some of the stupidest people I went to school with decide they're qualified to homeschool their children. He said, this is MAHA, Make Americans Healthy Again. This is tradwife. This is unvaxxed. Apparently makes you stupid if you're unvaxxed. Unvaxxed and unjacked and all that ish. And the worst, this is America has a crazy Christian problem. We have a fundamental crazy Christian problem. I'm talking about the freaks of the mega churches. I'm talking about the ones that have schools that are these crazy indoctrination factories, hate academies. And when that hit isn't strong enough, then they go to homeschooling. And I think it's a huge problem. Pete?
Well, I could go on to a rant for a long, long time, but you talk about a church. She belongs in a cult. That is the progressive cult right there. She's spouting all of the catchphrases that they typically use. And I'll tell you, just, we could talk for a couple of hours about the stupidity of that particular comment. She likes calling us stupid. I mean, my goodness, she has no clue. She better get a look into the mirror. But I've known, I remember one of my special assistants on the Civil Rights Commission who I had, who was phenomenal. She was an amazing individual, just really sharp, had basically a classical education that she understood and knew just about everything, historically, classically, you name it. And she had been homeschooled. She was the best I'd ever had in terms of not just an assistant on the Civil Rights Commission, but an associate in law firms and everything. And that's been the occasion when I've had other homeschooled folks working for me. I've discovered somebody else is homeschooled. So anyway, I just want to put that to rest. Right now, you talk about indoctrination factories. Indoctrination factories? Has she been into any public schools lately? Talk about indoctrination. The entire left is nothing but indoctrination. K through 12 and colleges, they're indoctrinating you. Your viewers there have students, have kids who've gone K through 12, but especially when they go to college, they don't recognize them when they come back. Not necessarily physically, but their attitudes, the way they speak, the positions that they take, they don't recognize. Talk about indoctrination. Give me a break.
That's what it's about. They literally
Please,
are.
What's her name? Jennifer Welch? Jennifer Welch, please do this. Contact the Civil Rights Commission. Jeez. No, don't do that. I don't want to face her. I was going to say, contact the Civil Rights Commission and debate me. Debate me. Holy crap. I'm sorry. Don't
You know what? You know what, Peter? No, I'm not kidding. I think there needs to be a concerted effort here to bring you to her attention, to bring you on, because she is so maniacal. She is just absolutely confident in her positions. I think she might do it. I think she might bring it on. She'll cuss, she'll swear, she'll yell at you, and so on and so forth. But I think she might actually be willing to do it if she thinks she can humiliate you. I'm going to play a minute or two of this, or a few seconds anyway.
And I stand by it. The homeschooling that I was referring to is the crazy Christian homeschooling. It is trickle-down stupidity. You have to be dumber than a box of hot rocks to sit down with your kids and teach them that dinosaurs and man lived on the planet at the same time, that the earth is 5,000 years old, and on and on. But more than anything, the reason they're melting down so much about this is because homeschooling is inherently patriarchal, and it is a huge push of the fascist project because it keeps women at home. And over 90% of all homeschooling parents are the mother. You know, they don't want women to be out in the workforce to make their own money and have independence so they can divorce their piece of shit closet case husbands when they find out. No, they want the women at home, dead ass broke, homeschooling the kids. This is a patriarchal step of the fascist project. And I will just say to Brian Kilmeade and Tommy Lahren, do you homeschool your kids? Do you do that with a full-time job? What do? Do you do it at night? Do you start at 8 p.m. and end at 1, 2 a.m.? Is that how your family values go? So if you don't homeschool your kids, shut the fuck up, you two. And to the Fox News producers, have fun watching my show. It's pathetic. You should be covering this fascist regime and this fascist takeover and not some podcaster, as per Tommy, that people just watch for entertainment.
Bob, I take that back. I don't want to debate her. Just watching her there, my IQ's gone down 10 points. If I debate her, there's just going to be a husk here. A babbling idiot. But no, I'm sorry. Every trope imaginable was just uttered by her. I don't want to debate somebody like that. Sorry. It's not worth anybody's time. And you know me, I love debating. I used to debate on a regular basis until the left decided no mas.
Yeah, I know. And she probably wouldn't have you on because you are more intelligent, and she does refer
more importantly, Bob, you know why she wouldn't have me on?
On those tropes. Go on.
The reason why she won't have me on or wouldn't have me on is not because I'm more intelligent or anything else like that, because that's a low bar for her. The fact of the matter is that they don't want to debate somebody. They talk about tropes. They don't want to have to debate a black person or somebody of color or somebody that fits into some kind of particular protected class of theirs, because that then eliminates 90% of their argument. They claim that they're the ones who are in favor of diversity and inclusion and all of this stuff, but they will not tolerate diverse arguments, especially if it comes from somebody of color or a female or something of that nature, because they want the stereotype to persist that this is all, as she said, the white male patriarchy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The patriarchal culture that they push back against. They hate men. She obviously hates men. You heard her talking about all these women and their piece of S husbands and so on and forth. So she's a radical feminist lunatic. But the point is, the subject matter is of really, really great importance here, because she's trying to make people believe that the government schools, sometimes called the public schools, let's call them what they are. They're government-run schools. So the government schools are not the indoctrination centers. The families are. The homeschooling element is indoctrination, and the private schools and so forth, and in the parochial schools. But the reality is that the most dangerous place in the world for an American child to be today is in a government-run school. It doesn't mean every single child is going to run into problems. It doesn't mean every single teacher is bad. And it doesn't mean every single government-run school has a nefarious agenda. But overwhelmingly, that is exactly what the case is. And it's evidenced by the teachers' unions and the teachers' unions' heads themselves. You know, you've seen Becky Pringle and you've seen
Randy Weingarten.
Yeah,
Randy Weingarten.
Yeah, Randy Weingarten. You've seen these people are just maniacal Marxist lunatics. And if they have an influence on the way their members, the teachers, actually conduct their classrooms, then, like I said, it's one of the most dangerous places your kids can be is in a public school, a government-run school. So we'll leave that there, Peter. So since you're here, I was going to do this myself because I thought, like I said, I saw you when you sent me that note saying you were going to be gone. I assumed it meant starting this week. Obviously, you didn't. So you're here. So let's do this together. Yesterday was a huge day. Senator Rand Paul released the diaries that he was able to obtain of Dr. Anthony Fauci on the same day that the Joe Biden audio tapes were released as well. And there is no more. The Supreme Court said these can be released. There's no more stopping the American people from finding out exactly what Joe Biden did, how cognitively declined he was, what his crimes were, how long he was carrying them out with respect to retaining, keeping, and sharing classified documents with his ghostwriter. All of that came out yesterday at the same time. So we'll go through some of this together. I want to share this from back in May. This was a report back in May of Joe Biden and his team trying desperately to sue the Department of Justice to stop them from releasing the tapes of his interview with Robert Hur, special investigator.
Biden is suing the Justice Department over materials tied to the special counsel investigation into his handling of classified documents. That year-long investigation resulted in a 345-page report questioning the former president's age and mental fitness, but recommended no criminal charges against the then 81-year-old. Correspondent David Spudd is following that story for us.
Former President Joe Biden is suing the Department of Justice to block the release of transcripts and audio files of multiple interviews he gave a ghostwriter for a 2017 book. The DOJ plans to release the material to the House Judiciary Committee as soon as June 15th. Biden's lawyers write, President Biden, like every American, has a right to privacy and personal conversations he had within his own home. That is particularly true here, where the department obtained this information through a criminal investigation.
Okay, I'm going to pause there, Peter, just to kind of let you maybe respond to that part of this with the knowledge and the memory that they gave President Trump no such considerations when they raided Mar-a-Lago. With 100 FBI agents, for crying out loud. Go ahead.
Exactly. And Biden was the one who directed that. I mean, you know, if they didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards at all, as you know. So that doesn't surprise me. Democrats are always going to be treated more favorably. They will be blatant about it. They will take almost the exact same circumstances and apply different standards depending upon what party you belong to, what movement you belong to. But this is something that shouldn't be. One of the things about this is, even though we want the information released, we want to know what's going on there. It's not a surprise to conservatives. Nothing is a surprise to the conservatives. We saw with our own eyes what the Democrats and the media, but I repeat myself, were trying to buffalo us about for the last at least 4 years, 5 years. This is the fact that this man was ostensibly president of the United States when he was clearly diminished is a travesty. And we are fortunate that something really bad did not happen. We had a lot of other folks, as we saw from some of the other investigations and files being released, who were in the White House, who were actually running the White House when he was taking naps. And, you know, he's President Autopen. What can you say? But I think we need more of this stuff released. It needs to get a public airing. Unfortunately, the media is going to do their best to cover these kinds of things up. And by covering them up, I mean, not necessarily completely doing a blackout, but reporting them scantly, just kind of a drive-by report, and just in a superficial fashion. Just it's a travesty.
It is all of those things. I'm going to share some of the audio from these newly released tapes of his interview, because this is, again, the fact that Robert Hur decided not to charge him because of his, he was any jury would see him as a kindly old forgetful grandpa type figure, and nobody would ever want to put him in prison. So therefore, what's the point of prosecuting and that nonsense? But we need to hear some of the things that should have been prosecuted without question. So let me bring this back up. I'm going to share a couple of these different clips if I can. This one doesn't have video. It's just the audio from one of the interview tapes, but it's important.
In 2009, I just found all the classified stuff downstairs. I wrote the president a handwritten 40-page memorandum arguing against deploying additional troops to to Afghanistan. In 2009,
I want to emphasize this. This is 2009. I just found all this classified stuff downstairs. That means it had been there since before 2009. He wasn't even vice president until 2009, January of 2009, which means he had been keeping classified documents, quote, downstairs, amongst other places, Peter, since he was a senator. He has been keeping, retaining, and as we'll find out, sharing classified information since long before he became vice president and way before he became president.
Yeah. In addition to all of that, we know that, or we're very concerned. The FBI has recently become extremely concerned, at least publicly, about potential manipulation by the Chinese of the Bidens. They were, we know with Hunter and, and Joe also, of the relationship with China. And, we've got to be extremely concerned about what's going on here. Starting back in the 1990s, China has been eating our lunch in terms of raping our military and scientific establishments for classified information, and using many of their technological advances militarily and commercially are the result of pirating our intellectual property. And with a guy like Biden at the helm, that was going on steroids, or I suspect, at least. I don't know that, but I think you'd have to be kind of naive to think that this was not happening. They had an opportunity. They saw this opportunity. It was not an opportunity that had been presented to any adversary in the last 100 years at least. And so they went whole hog trying to get as much as they can in a short window of time when they had this impaired individual as president.
Yeah, beyond that, impaired beyond that. The Oversight Project is who obtained these tapes, by the way, through a FOIA battle, and then obviously eventually won in court the right to release these. The DOJ has the right to release these. The VP of Litigation, Jeff Clark, said the decision to give Biden a free pass for keeping and disclosing classified information must now be re-examined from top to bottom, and there are consequences for that, which we'll talk about in a second. But I want to listen to a little bit more and get your reaction to this, Pete. So this is more of what they were able to release. This is a 4-minute clip. I'm not going to play all 4 minutes of it, but I want people to get at least a taste of what it is that Joe Biden said and admitted to doing, and why it is that Robert Hur, of course, chose not to actually prosecute. Here we go.
So during this time when you were living in Chambers Road and there were documents related to the Penn Biden Center or the Biden or the cancer failure shot or your book, where did you keep papers that related to those things that you were actively working on?
Well, I don't know. This is what, 2017, 18, that area?
Yes, sir.
Remember, in this time frame, my son is either been deployed or is dying. And so it was, and by the way, there were still a lot of people at the time when I got out of the Senate that were encouraging me to run in this period, except the president. It's not a mean thing to say, but he just thought that she had a better shot of winning the presidency than I did. And so I hadn't at this point, even though I'm at Penn, I hadn't walked away from the idea that I might run for office again. So if I ran again, I'd be running for president. And so what was happening though, one month ago died, May 30th, 2015. Was it 2015 he died? 2015. I think it's 2015.
I'm not sure the months are, but I think that was.
Yeah.
That's right, Mr. President.
And what's happened in the meantime is that Trump gets elected in November of 2017, 2016.
You know, I'm going to stop it there and just give me your reaction to what you just watched or listened to.
Bob, I think if I gave you my reaction, it would be superfluous. I think it speaks for itself. I think your viewers look at that, and those who remember are probably re-appalled, if that's a word, but it's appalling. We were sold this guy as someone who could lead the most powerful nation in the history of the world at a critical juncture in world history. This is what was sold to us by a complicit media, many of whom started backtracking before he left office, such as what's his name? Jake, I can't even remember their names because they're not worth remembering. The so-called members of the media who are now saying, oh, well.
Tapper? Tapper?
No, not Tapper. The other guy.
Another Jake? Another Jake, you said?
Maybe it was Tapper, but these folks who would write these books trying to exculpate themselves from being complicit in pretending not to see what all of us saw. Yeah. And then ignoring a lot of things that they saw, but didn't and chose not to report to us. This was for 4 years, I would argue, the nation was at extreme risk nationally, from a national security perspective. From a policy perspective, domestically, it was a joke. The kinds of things we talked about in the first segment with respect to the, teaching of the kids all these trans ideology and all of that. I mean, that just, they had given over everything to the extreme far left of the Democratic Party. And the Democrats like to talk about the extreme right. Well, there's a much bigger cohort on their left on the extreme than anything on the right, without question. Take it from somebody who's been on the Civil Rights Commission. You won't believe the kind of lunacy you will hear. And as I said, if you hear it there at the Civil Rights Commission, in 5-10 years, it's going to be in the public discourse. It's going to be out in the public domain. So anyway, bottom line reaction is we dodged a bullet. A lot of harm was done by having him as president for 4 years, but we dodged a big bullet that there was something not cataclysmic that occurred. And who knows, maybe the seeds of that cataclysm have already been sown. The good news is that we have a different administration now, and maybe that some of those things can be undone, or if there were the seeds planted, that they could find them and uproot them. So that's all I've got to say on that. I think it speaks for itself.
I want people to know that I'm only playing a couple of short clips here of hours and hours of audio that exists. And I want to, for those who are interested in it too, I'll just kind of share this. On YouTube, there is the Oversight Project release of the Biden Zwanitzer, that was the ghostwriter that he read and gave classified information to, a complete violation of the law, in order to help him give him material to write his book, which is supposedly a father's book about his own son, about Beau Biden, which is, he can't write it himself. He has a ghostwriter doing it. So anyway, he's giving him classified information that he never, ever, ever, ever had the right to declassify until he became president. He didn't become president until 2020. This all happened in 2016 and 17. So he had no authorization to own, retain, and much less share classified information. But for those who want to watch all of this, There's a YouTube channel, like I said, that is dedicated to this. And you can see there's a series of the tapes, the Biden's Wanitzer tapes. And I'll fast forward past that, Peter, just to say what the chief litigator for the organization, the Oversight Project, Jeff Clark, said about this. And let me pull this up. We, and hopefully everybody can see that, our team, rather, is reviewing the Biden tapes now. We will be out with various bombshells. But I want to make this point right now. The tapes make clear that Biden disclosed massive amounts of classified information to his ghostwriter, Mark Wanitzer. Now take a look, and this is where it's interesting, Pete, and put on your legal hat. 18 U.S. Code 798D. Last, ask yourself, why didn't Special Counsel Robert Hur seek a prosecution? And then A, the forfeiture of the $8 million book advance that Joe Biden got for Promise Me Dad. And B, his Delaware house and any other Biden property where he kept classified information. And here's what the U.S. Code statute says. Any person convicted of a violation of this section shall forfeit to the U.S., irrespective of any provision of state law, any property constituting or derived from any proceeds the person obtained directly or indirectly as the result of such violation, and any of the person's property used or intended to be used in any manner or part to commit or to facilitate the commission of such violation. Pete, what's all that mean?
Well, it means that if Joe Biden, if anyone had decided to prosecute Joe Biden, he'd be in a lot of trouble. And that's not a surprise. You know, you recall the video of him standing in front of his garage with his Corvette, and
Yes.
They were talking about how he would just keep all of the. It's an amazing thing. If you go to, you know, like in my garage, for example, the stuff I keep there is, you know, stuff like, old albums from my college years, things that are innocuous, you know, have no import whatsoever except for me. I just can't part with them. This guy kept the secrets, the most sensitive secrets of the United States of America in his garage. He is a high value target for every adversary espionage program, not just adversaries, even our allies, because everyone spies on one another. And he kept them in his garage. We are supposed to believe, and I'm hopeful this is the case, but we're supposed to believe that there was no attempt to get any of that classified information by any of our adversaries. I have a hard time believing it. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean for the volume to be up there. I'm just going to let this roll. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah. I have a hard time believing that there was at least an attempt, and possibly a successful one. If you talk to a lot of the folks in the intelligence community, they will tell you this is a serious, serious business, and no one leaves anything to chance, and our adversaries don't leave anything to chance. And if they thought, and they probably knew that this was the case, if they didn't know that they weren't doing their jobs on behalf of their countries, but they probably knew this stuff was available. I would be very skeptical. I'm hopeful that none of the stuff fell into the hands of our adversaries, but I think there's a fair probability that happened. But that's not even the point. The point is he exposed our vital secrets cavalierly and carelessly, and it's astonishing.
For profit, by the way, too. Let's make a point about that. For profit. He exposed this to a ghostwriter. We don't know what that ghostwriter's ties are. Who's he tied to? Does he have any foreign entanglements that we need to be aware of? Joe Biden gave this guy all of this information so he could sell a book, get an $8 million advance, and then, of course, all of the profits thereafter. I mean, that's a bigger part of this, too, or as big of a part of this. Not only did he break these rules and violate these laws, and put American classified information at risk, he did it for the worst of all reasons, to make money.
Yep. And our garbage media is asleep, not asleep at the switch, because they're at the switch and they're probably alert, and they decided not to pull the switch because they have an affinity with the Democratic Party and Joe Biden. But we were in a desperate situation for 4 years. That's not an exaggeration. We were vulnerable for 4 years, and we don't know the extent to which our vulnerabilities have been exploited by our adversaries. But I guarantee you they did. Otherwise, they're not worth their own intelligence agencies. It's pathetic, pathetic.
Yeah, I was looking real quick just to see if I could find the video of him at his garage and with the classified document boxes circled, after the fact, where people could see where he kept these things, just in cardboard boxes on the garage floor, as if they were just, I don't know, your old football awards or something, just things that we keep
I take
because
better care of those because I have so few. of them.
sentimental value, right? But these are classified documents again that he had no business having. So again, and I don't want to beat it into the ground because it's already been beaten into the ground during the time that Hur made the announcement that, well, I'm not going to seek prosecution because of the kindly old man who just had a forgetful memory, couldn't even remember when his son died, what year that was, and so forth. So nobody was going to convict him anyway. These are crimes of the highest order, and they should result, as the gentleman with the what's his name now? I forgot his name already. Mr. Clark. Just like he said, he should be forfeiting his home. He should be forfeiting the $8 million he got as an advance for the book, any profits or proceeds he derived or anything that was used to help hide or retain those classified documents. He should lose all of it, Peter. I don't know if there's a legal avenue now to go back and get a second bite at that apple. Hur decided not to prosecute, but there's new information now. So is there a chance that there could be a new investigation now that these tapes have been revealed?
Yeah, I think it's probably unlikely unless it's something that is completely unrelated to whatever he received, his amnesty or exemption for. And on top of that, I think the most value that the United States gets out of this is to make sure that all of this is being made available to not the classified information, but the fact that this occurred and the fact that the media didn't just fall asleep at the switch. I don't believe these things anymore. You can't have an entire cadre of media folks, billions of dollars worth of resources at their disposal, and none of them, given the competition between the various networks, newspapers, none of them will report this stuff in real time. I'm sorry, it doesn't pass the smell test.
No, 100% agree. All right, Peter, I don't have a ton of time left, but I want to spend some time on the other big Democrat bombshell yesterday, bombshell on the Democrats, which of course was Dr. Anthony Fauci. And I want to cover that with you in just a moment if I can. But first, I want to remind folks about our fantastic partners at Keeping Medicare Simple. And I want to say thank you to Mark King. But moreover, I want to encourage you to call Mark King and have a reason to thank him when he gets you a better deal on your Medicare coverage. The annual enrollment period is coming up this fall. It's just a couple of months away. It's in October, and you are going to need to look at your Medicare. If you are already on Medicare, you need to find out if the plan you are on now is still going to be the best plan for you for the coming year, because they change. The rules and what they allow are changing every single year. I talk to Mark about this on a routine basis. And so you need to find out if things are changing for you, your costs, the availability, what services and products you're allowed to get and that are covered under Medicare. It can be very complex depending on what you have, which is why Mark has been keeping it simple for nearly 40 years. Medicare can be simple if you have it explained to you by the right guy. That guy's Mark King, 440-832-8936. If you are just getting into Medicare age, or you're going to in the coming year, you're going to want to know what's available to you, and you're going to want to know how to navigate those waters. So again, call Mark. So if you're on Medicare or you're going to be, it's 440-832-8936. There is a lot of great information on the website at keepingmedicaresimple.com. It's user-friendly and easy to navigate. And then, like I said, make that phone call to Mark, 440-832-8936. Mark is MAGA all the way. He's America first. He wants to help, and he will help you. I trust him with Medicare, and you can too.
Yeah, and I'll just interject, Bob. I went to Mark, and boy, he knows his stuff. He helped us out, got us all straightened out. We're good to go. Mark, and he doesn't pay me to do that. He doesn't know I was going to do this. I just want to, and I don't vouch for a whole lot of people, but I vouch for Mark King. No offense.
I love, you know what? I love an unsolicited testimonial like that. That's fantastic. Thank you, Pete. Okay.
I'll give you another one. McFan. You and I had the pleasure of being at McFan on Saturday. Great crowd. It's one of my favorite crowds, if not my favorite. Lisa Woods does a great job out there. And I think the crowd, at least based on my the feedback I've been getting, they really enjoyed us out there. And they always have good questions. And sometimes it can get a little feisty, but it's good.
Yeah, it was. And there were some questions that, people look. One of the things that makes conservatives conservative is the fact that we are not all slaves to groupthink. We don't all march in lockstep with one another the way the Democrats do, which is really, a problem. Sometimes it's a problem for us because if we were more unified, we'd probably have a lot better chance to win elections and get things done. There's too many splintering opinions, for example, in the United States Senate right now on things like the Save America Act. They're not united enough, but it is also a blessing, because we have a lot more opportunities to think and consider different positions rather than being, like I said, slaves to groupthink. And yeah, there are some people who ask questions of us in events like that and places like that, and they're not happy with the way things are going or what's being done by certain Republicans or leadership and so forth. And they've got questions and they want answers. And I love the fact that they ask them. And we do our best to provide with the information that we have. You have a lot more of it because of your Washington contacts and your Civil Rights Commission, but we try to bring as many answers as we can to those really, really sometimes difficult questions.
It occurs to me, Bob, that this is like our third one we've done in the last month or so. We did one out in Ottawa County, I think it was.
Well, yeah, we were out in Oregon, Ohio,
right,
and then we were in Brecksville. For the CVR, Cuyahoga Valley Republicans, and Seven Hills Republicans, Broadview Heights, and others who kind of teamed up to have that event. But yeah, really, really good stuff. And I'm sad that you're not going to be with us this Saturday. Saturday, we will be having the GOP Middleburg Heights picnic, but I know you're traveling, as we discussed. I was surprised you're here now. I thought you had left already. But the rest of us will be there at the GOP Middleburg Heights picnic on Saturday obviously in Middleburg Heights. It's going to be a great time there. If you did not yet RSVP, there still may be a chance for you to do that. I was talking to Meg on text a couple of days ago, and there still may be a chance to do that. So call her at 440-725-2243, which you can see on that graphic in the middle there. If you'd like to be there, I am co-hosting it with Strictly Speaking Unfiltered, along with Middleburg Heights GOP. There's going to be a lot of candidates there. There are going to be a lot of elected officials there. It's going to be a great time, and we're really going to enjoy ourselves, and I hope you can be there with us. Pete will be on the road and unable to be there for that one. All right, Peter, so let's get into Dr. Anthony Fauci now. Senator Rand Paul yesterday released some information that Anthony Fauci was trying just as hard to keep hidden as Joe Biden was trying to keep those tapes from being released. Let me share just a little bit of this. This is all in writing. There's no audio here. But this is Senator Paul yesterday dropping these bombs on Fauci. My investigation uncovered what Anthony Fauci kept a diary. What he wrote privately and what he told the country are two different stories. Today, I'm releasing his entries from December of 2019 through December of 2022, which is the core COVID period. And I'm not going to read all of this to you. I'm going to make this all available on my social media. And you can also go to, obviously, Rand Paul's social media here. But during his time as the NAID director, and particularly during COVID, Dr. Fauci took meticulous notes about his work. He made notes of conversations, decisions, and thoughts about actions taken by politicians and other officials. This is his own historical record containing almost daily entries. Later in the pandemic, he gloried in the positive attention he was receiving from legacy media and demonized those who questioned his official narrative, like me. Many entries in Fauci's daily historical account completely undermine the official narrative that Fauci and other public health officials espoused. Peter, what Anthony Fauci did, and I read a lot of this, and I watched a lot of the coverage of this. Where'd you go? There you go. I watched a lot of the coverage of this last night, too. He was and is one of the most narcissistic human beings that I think I've ever come across. He was, exactly as Rand Paul described there, constantly writing about all of the popularity he had attained. He reminds me of the school science nerd that was always jealous of the jocks. And finally, the most powerful man in science. That's me. He spoke of that multiple times. He was all about what he was doing for himself, did not give a rip about the health of the American people and was not honest, because the things that he said privately that he was doing, he was ordering Americans to not do during that period of time. Going to dinner with Jake Tapper and his wife at her house, their house, having them come to his, when he was telling the American people, cancel Christmas, don't go to anybody's house for Christmas, don't have Easter, or maybe next year we'll see where we are. Peter, it's just all of the very carefully hidden and cloaked stuff that Dr. Anthony Fauci did is now being revealed. And guess what? Just like Joe Biden, there will never be accountability, because the auto pen pardoned Anthony Fauci for everything.
Yeah, it's this is, I don't even know how to characterize it, Bob. It's the damage done to America in so many different facets of our existence is incalculable. The damage to our kids in terms of education, the damage to our economy. It's just extraordinary what this one individual did. And, he was lionized by much of the progressive media. I think, Bob, you and I had discussions about Fauci in real time. And my recollection is that, as usual, you and I were not buying what he was selling. I will tell you personally, I remember during COVID going downtown, even though all the offices were closed, my building at our law firm was closed, but I would go downtown for several reasons. One is I personally decided I'm going to use my own brain on this. I'm not going to listen to Fauci if I disagree based on extant evidence that I'm at risk. On top of that, I'm not very good at following orders, but what I found was downtown was a ghost town. If you remember that, it was down, and that's probably the case for every place around, even not Cleveland, but our suburbs. They were ghost towns. No one was going anywhere. The economic damage was incredible. The academic damage was incredible. The damage to our psyches, especially of young kids who were exposed to this, who were taught to be afraid of something that they couldn't see, was incalculable. And at the time, this guy was luxuriating in the fact that he was being set up as the oracle on this issue. I think a lot of your audience, based on my discussions with them and in real time back then and now, probably had a lot of real questions about this guy, because we've all had experience and we could see, even though, look, I'm not saying Fauci was not qualified. He probably was qualified in the academic sense, but we had a sense based on how he communicated that a lot of this was bull or exaggerated. But we were constrained because he is the guy. He was the guy that was put forth by our government as the oracle. And so COVID was expressed to us as being something that was just devastating. We're not going to take the chance. We see those daily figures in the corner of the screen of almost every TV show about how many people were dying. And, any, I think, reasonable person, at least for a period of time, would be cautious about what they were doing. But that caution resulted in incredible economic damage, incredible educational damage to our kids, incredible social damage. And this guy's being lionized.
Yeah. And there's so much depth here. We can't get into all of it, obviously. But just what I have on the screen right now, this is, again, something that was posted and created by Dr. Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul. The reading room, documents released by Chairman Rand Paul are as part of his ongoing investigation into the origins of COVID-19 and risky taxpayer-funded life sciences research. This part of it, Peter, and like I said, there's so much depth there. We can talk about the orders that he gave and the policies he created and the forced vaccinations and so on and so forth, which was a huge, huge part of the scandal. But the part about just how this whole thing came about, and it came about from the gain of function research from that Wuhan laboratory, and that Dr. Anthony Fauci to this day continues to tell the lie that it came from the wet market, one of the Wuhan wet markets. It's just, Jon Stewart is the left-wing piece of trash. But one of the best things I ever saw him do was his commentary during an interview. He wasn't even his show. He was a guest somewhere. And he talked about, this coronavirus research somehow escaped from Wuhan, China. But But did it come from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where they actually study those things and have those contained there, or from bat soup down the block? And I'm obviously not doing it justice the way he said it. But obviously they're trying to convince us this came from a wet market and not from the actual Institute of Virology. Well, what you see here, Peter, on the screen, I just wanted to show this and maybe talk about it for a moment with you. This is just part, and the documents are all there. If you click read the documents, you can. But this is just part of what Dr. Rand Paul released here. Federal officials intercepted undeclared biological materials tied to a U.S.-China coronavirus. Let me read that part again. A U.S.-China coronavirus research network as early as 2018. Well, this wet market just happened to have this coronavirus get created and released in 2020. This was planned long before it actually was carried out. Undeclared coronavirus materials between the U.S. and Chinese labs as far back as 2018, years before COVID-19. A courier was caught twice, 3 years apart, first with a few hidden vials, then with 132 more in a laptop that wasn't his. Peter, I don't want to put your words in your mouth, but I'll give you mine and you can decide what you want to do with it. Dr. Fauci is responsible, along with others, for the worst mass murder in world history. And I know that sounds crazy when you think about Mao and you think about a different type of mass murder, forced starvation and Stalin and so on and so forth, and Hitler and whatnot. But in terms of non-dictatorial leaders, he helped engineer what led to the deaths of how many people around the world through this exact quote unquote science that he claimed and swore under oath numerous times to Congress and to the Senate was not taking place. This gain of function research with the coronavirus was never happening, he swore. And that's why he got his pardon, because he knew he'd have to eventually answer for these things.
We have, and I'm hopeful this is the case, when he does testify before the Senate on these matters. Back in the old days, they used to have counsel, attorneys for the various committees conduct the questioning, because unfortunately, when senators do the questioning, they're not very skilled at it, number one. And number two is their egos and their attempts to get public recognition overtake their ability to, or their desire and need to get information out of individuals. But they should have a counsel.
Clicks and views. Clicks and views. It's all about clicks and views for so many of them. You're right, Peter.
Right. So we need somebody who can draw the information necessary is actually necessary, regardless of placing blame on him, but the information necessary for us to make sure we have an historical record that's accurate, and so that we can position ourselves for when something like this, God forbid, occurs again. That's important stuff to do, because we can't go through something like this again. But it's important to get the historical record established. And it's also conceivable. I haven't read the pardon, and I don't know how broad it is. I suspect it's pretty broad. But it wouldn't encompass things that occur in the future. You can't pardon him for a murder that he commits 5 years from now. That you can't do that in anticipation of that. So it's important to make sure that we get the historical record, and there is some measure of accountability, and there may be others involved too. But I hope this is a thorough investigation. Again, there are certain folks and I don't even know who's going to be on the committee doing the questioning, but the Tom Cottons, the Ted Cruzes of the world, Rand Paul's pretty good at doing this kind of stuff, but those folks can draw questions out pretty well. Most senators don't know how to cross-examine somebody at all, and it's usually a matter of grandstanding. But when something is of this titanic, galactic size and impact on the United States of America and the world in general, have to take this extremely seriously. And it may be that Fauci still has exposure, because the pardon, I can't see it working prospectively to shield him against perjuries that he commits in the future.
Yeah, I can, Peter, and you're right. It does not cover future crimes. It says the full and unconditional preemptive pardon given to Anthony Fauci on January 20th, 2025 covered any offenses against the United States related to his service as director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease and as White House Chief Medical Advisor, specifically to acts committed or participated in during the period from January 1st of 2014 to January 20th of 2025. However, the pardon does not cover future crimes, meaning Fauci does remain vulnerable to prosecution for perjury if he lies under oath during new congressional testimony. And he cannot, according to this, because he has received the pardon, he cannot invoke the Fifth Amendment to refuse testimony on the specific matters for the prior covered acts. So he's
I guarantee you he's sweating right now. But despite the fact that that seems to be a huge exemption from the pardon, much of this is a matter of will and politics. As you know, no surprise there. So whether or not Fauci is ever held to account, regardless of whether or not he has violated the laws and the exemptions don't apply to him, he has a chance of escaping here. This is a matter of political will. But I can't believe that, given the record that we know thus far, that there aren't Republicans in Congress, as I said before, the Tom Cottons of the world, the Rand Pauls of the world, those who are pretty bright at doing the questioning, but also are not going to abide any kind of nonsense, are going to give him a pass. And he doesn't deserve a pass. Based on the extant evidence that we've got, he doesn't deserve a pass.
No, he deserves to be in prison for the rest of his life. I mean, seriously, he lied about so much, Peter, not only the gain of function research, but also the efficacy of the poison darts. But Robert F. Kennedy Jr. took him to the woodshed. And I don't know if we have time for this or not, but Robert F. Kennedy took him to the woodshed in an interview. Let me see if I still have it. I might have it. Let's see. About when he got his own shot. When he got his own shot, he had. Oh yeah, I do have it here. Let's just for the hell of it. Let me bring this up super quick, and we'll wrap with this, Peter. Here we go.
Is this massive dichotomy between what he was saying privately and what he was simultaneously saying publicly. He says in his diaries on January 30th that the Wuhan lab could not possibly be the source of the virus.
Oh, we know that was all false.
Then, well, we all know it, but now his diary, he says he knew that, and yet for 2 years he told us that was.
But he was given a pardon prospectively from the last administration. We don't know if it was an auto pen pardon. It doesn't really matter for legality purposes, but Americans want to know, a lot of them, is there going to be any accountability for trillions of dollars lost, children's education?
That's not the part that's important here. Hold on.
Public health industry reputation shattered.
Yeah, and millions of people injured. You know, he lied about masks. He lied about social distancing. He lied about the transmission. He lied about natural immunity. He lied about the capacity, as you just said, of the vaccine to prevent infection. He got vaccinated, a very, very public press conference in January of 2020. And then 5 months later, he had, and this is the first time that we knew this from the diary, he had a pulmonary infarction, which is one of the adverse events that NIH, CDC, and FDA said are expected from the vaccine.
That part, Peter Kirsanow, is enough to throw him in prison forever. He knew, because he took the shot himself, one of the earliest ones, and he suffered a cardiac event. He suffered, what was it called, an infarction? He suffered that, and that was from that shot, and he knew it, and he went and told everybody for 3, and to this day, they still say, every winter now, it's just like flu shots, get your COVID shot. It's safe and effective. There are no adverse events. There are no problems with it. It's totally safe. He himself had a cardiac event because of it, Peter, and then forced millions and millions of people to put their own health in jeopardy, their own cardiac condition, especially if somebody already had an underlying heart problem. That's why I said before about him being a mass murderer, for crying out loud. He knew how dangerous those were and forced those upon people anyway. Between that and then the development of the virus in the lab, and then it's either leak or intentional release, Peter, again, millions upon millions of people have been negatively impacted or killed because of Dr. Anthony Fauci.
There needs to be an accounting. I am hopeful that we've got the kind of individuals in the Senate who can at least draw out this information. Unfortunately, because the auto pen gave him a pardon, there's a very good chance he's going to skate on all of this, and that very fact, based on what you just said over the last minute and a half, the United States of America and the people in the United States of America have to understand all of the incalculable damage caused because of the pandemic. And I think people do, but we can't then just say, kind of move on and say, well, never mind, no big deal here. There's got to be a reckoning. Otherwise, this kind of thing will have, there's not going to be the kind of deterrent effect. It's extraordinary that science, or a purported man of science, would be this cavalier, and I'm being charitable about it, about what transpired. And, his diary and a lot of other things say some pretty damning things. But auto pen gave him a pardon, so, he's insulated from at least a good portion of this. We'll see what happens. He can't be insulated from prospective testimony.
Yeah, not only, Peter, has he not been held accountable and had that reckoning, and you're right, it still needs to come. And I unless he lies and is proven to be perjuring himself in these upcoming testimonies, I don't know how they get him because of the pardon. But not only has he not been held accountable, he has become enriched. He has become one of the most in-demand public speakers, primarily for left-wing organizations. He charges $100,000 per speaking engagement. He is making millions off of being Dr. Science, about being the man who helped, the nation and the world, navigate their way through this horrific coronavirus pandemic, one that he personally was responsible for creating, and then the damage done by those freaking poison darts that so many people were either conned or forced at the tip of the spear or the tip of a syringe to if they wanted to keep their jobs, they had to take those things, for crying out loud, all because of this guy. And he has gotten so wealthy off of it. It is just, it's infuriating.
Yeah, and the trust in public institutions has been completely shattered. And that trust is imperative. We must have that in order to have a civilization. But bottom line here is it was also a very good instruction. We can't trust anybody to say or do the right thing. I think that's pretty clear. And when it's something of the magnitude of, say, a coronavirus and the impact it can have on you financially, health-wise, I think each individual has got to make their own judgment. And as I just said before, I did that myself. I've made my own judgment, and I was going against the grain on that. And certain other individuals did the same thing. But it really eroded trust in major institutions. That's a significant cost that can't be calculated. The economic costs, the billions, the hundreds of billions lost, that can be calculated. The educational cost, very difficult to calculate. You can see based on test scores that there was significant damage done to our educational system. But we've got to be alert about this stuff. And one entity that I was about to say didn't learn its lesson. No, it learned its lesson. It knew its lesson, God's lesson exactly right, is the media. The media will go ahead and continue to promote the Faucis of the world and be, frankly, a tool for any leftist impetus that is being promulgated, even if it's as important as something like this. This should be extremely instructive to anybody who's kind of on the fence, who isn't a committed, diehard progressive, that, my goodness, we can't trust these folks to do anything. Use your own judgment. Do what Republicans/conservatives always do. Act as individuals, not as a mob.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Peter, great conversation today. Unexpected Kursanau is the best kind of Kursanau. I thought you were traveling already, and you popped up on my screen. That was really a great surprise to see. Thank you. Travel safely. So we won't have you for the next 2 Tuesdays, but we'll get you in August as we get closer and closer to the midterms. All right, my friend.
Take care, Bob.
Thank you, Peter. There you go. That's Kursanau, and that was fun. That was fun. Like I said, I did not expect him today. Chatters, thank you, everybody who's been in the live chat. If you're watching this on replay, please don't be shy. Get into the comment section if you got something to say about Fauci, about Biden, or about any of the material that we covered today. Please don't forget to give us a thumbs up as you watch. Give us a notification, hit that notification bell, and most importantly, help me grow. Help us grow this platform to become more influential. We have a lot of things that we're going to try to accomplish, and we need more reach to do that. So share the channel, please. Share it, copy the URL, or just text it to somebody and say, hey, go to Rumble and look up France. Go to Rumble and look up Strictly Speaking, something like that. Get more and more people to follow us and watch, and we will indeed continue to do what I believe to be is important, very important work. That's it. Thanks to Pete for showing up unexpected, and thanks to you for watching. Be well, be safe, stay free. See you next time. Thank you.